Hello and welcome back to another Aspects of Archaeology. Now this is the last Aspects of Archaeology of the year and I am in festive mood. So I thought I'd wear the most festive hat I own. Now today we're going to be looking at archaeological illustration. Archaeological illustrators are some of the unsung heroes of the archaeological world. Not only do they bring finds which have been unearthed to life, but also they help to record these finds in meticulous detail. In other words, they tackled a problem which for a long time dogged archaeology. From the earliest days of structured excavations, archaeologists found that they were making intriguing discoveries almost every day. These finds were duly studied in great detail and often found their way into museums. But there was a problem. How could archaeologists share their latest discovery with other archaeologists from around the world? The answer, of course, lay in books. Books and words have been used for thousands of years to share information. But how does one go about describing the myriad of beautiful patterns found on pots, or discussing the intricate knotwork found on a Viking clothespin? Of course, the best way to do this is to draw a picture or a diagram. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and better still, why not take photographs? There is a bit of a problem though, and that is that photography tends to be a bit expensive, especially when you have thousands of finds to publish. It was therefore to the artist that archaeologists turned in order to record and communicate their exciting finds. After all, some of the most beautiful diagrams in history were drawn by artists. However, the objectives of the artist and the archaeologist are not the same. These images of Stonehenge, for example, are not particularly useful from an archaeological standpoint, as a record of a monument. Indeed, often the artist captures their impression of the site, not its reality. And unfortunately, when archaeologists tried to draw things, the results weren't always particularly impressive. So, how were they to solve this problem? How could archaeologists accurately record their finds? Archaeologists simply had to find a better way of communicating their finds to the world. How could this new pursuit grow if no one knew what these objects that people were finding looked like? This is where archaeological illustration stepped into the fray and began to develop a series of vital techniques. In order to draw compelling yet accurate pictures of archaeological finds, a new breed of archaeologist would be required. They would have to be skilled draftsmen, artistes. But this flair would have to be tempered with a meticulous sense of detail. In order to achieve these objectives, archaeological illustrators adopted specialist pen sets used by architects. As with any artist, they carefully studied the way that different media created marks on paper, and specifically the power of contrast, black and white, to highlight details. Archaeological training and artistic talent merged in the archaeological illustrator to create a balanced record, accurate, visually appealing, and easily understood, and always ready to adapt new techniques to achieve an ever better visual record. Archaeological illustrators concerned themselves with accurate measurement and scale. For example, this diagram is used for estimating the full circumference of a pot when only part of the rim is recovered. Different textures and the ability to communicate these visually are also important to the archaeological illustrator. For example, wood grain. When attempting to reconstruct what a Bronze Age looped palistave axe might have looked like when hafted, it's important to be able to draw wood, but also important to be able to differentiate wood from antler or bone, as here. Metallic objects bring with them their own challenges. They have a texture and a heft entirely different from wood or bone. Here, for example, is a drawing of a metallic Thor's hammer. Sometimes it is not the material, but what is painted on it which offers a challenge. Here is a series of patterned pottery sherds. And of course, drawing a translucent material like glass is a whole different ballgame. Archaeological illustrators must also have an understanding of how things are put together in order to better represent them. Here, for example, is a Viking antler composite comb. And sometimes it is not the composition, but the process involved in making something which must be understood. All of these things must be mastered by an archaeological illustrator in order to produce the best record for publication. It is this artistic flair, combined with a meticulous attention to detail, which makes an archaeological illustrator a very skilled professional. Here are some wonderful examples. Paleolithic stone tools are some of the most iconic and yet most difficult to draw artifacts in the archaeological world. A key observation are the lines of percussion which show where each flake has been bashed from the rock with another rock, and in this way every face on the stone tool is represented with lines and meticulous detail until eventually a full record of the stone tool is produced. As we have already seen, a Viking composite comb is an extremely complicated object which cannot easily be described. Archaeological illustration offers the ability to reconstruct the construction and show people how these objects were put together. Not only this, but the illustrations also have the power to capture in high contrast the details and patterning which has been worked onto the antler or bone in question. Another feature of Norse archaeology are so-called rune stones, beautifully carved outdoor art. These beautiful pictures, pictographs and messages are often subject to weathering, and because of this, archaeological illustration can act as a form of conservation, preserving the image intact, indeed preserving an impression of the stone itself for future generations. Our next object is a Roman brooch, a so-called hunting horn design. Many of its original details are hard to see because of the patina which is developed on its surface. Archaeological illustration can begin to pick out these details and bit by bit reveal something of the majesty of this object as it once was. This is achieved through nothing more than employing the contrast of black and white, and can be repeated many times over, revealing more detail than photographs at a fraction of the cost. Indeed, once you start to think like an archaeological illustrator, you'll never quite see artifacts in the same way again. So, archaeological illustrations. These wonderful images have been bringing our finds to life for a long time. Not only do they help to communicate archaeological finds, but they also record them in a way which a photograph won't necessarily do. The people who produce these images are extremely talented artists. Not only this, but they have an exquisite attention to detail and an understanding of what goes into making the objects in the first place. So, next time you see an archaeological illustration, bear in mind the skill, time and talent which has gone into producing those wonderful images. So, that's been Archaeological Illustration. Hopefully you found this video interesting and or useful, and feel free to comment below if you have any thoughts. If you have any questions which this video has brought up, please do message me. Send me a message either via the YouTube channel or you can send it to archeosoup@gmail.com. Of course, please do feel free to subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, all you need to do is push the subscribe button just above. And we do now have a Facebook page and a Twitter account going. Craziness. So feel free to pop over to Facebook, search for Archeosoup Productions and click like, or follow on Twitter, which is @Archeosoup, with soup spelt with a 0. So all of these different ways will keep you up to date with news and articles which can't make it onto the YouTube channel because there just isn't enough time in the day. But if you do follow us on those wonderful outlets, you will be up to date all the time. Oh yes, also check out archeosoup.com. Yes, just opened up a wonderful new hub for everything which is Archeosoup. So until next time, and indeed possibly until next year, I will not see you again in an Archaeological Aspects of Archaeology video. So have a good time and I'll see you next time.